So, real quick, do you mind just stating your name and what it is that you do?
Okay, my name is Jackie Daniels. I am a basketball coach for a travel team, 10U boys, and I am a strength and conditioning coach at Peak Strength and Conditioning.
And so, first question: if even if Title IX doesn't directly affect you as a woman, are there any ways that you could say like it has somehow affected you?
I feel like I was too young for Title X to affect me personally, but seeing over the years, I could tell that there are a lot more women in the industry, which is nice because it makes it easier on the younger ones who come up to try to just play their own role inside the coaching field instead of having to make their way.
Okay. And then, since you've been playing and also in your coaching career, or what are some of the things that have like changed? Whether it be like level of competition or how young that they start kids.
So for sure, the level of competition has increased dramatically. We've also gained a lot more women teams instead of playing just co-ed. So there's not just like that one or two girls on a boys team trying to play in travel.
Yeah.
There are full girls teams all throughout travel leagues, which is really nice to see. The women also start a lot younger, so I see girls start at 5 and 6 rather than starting in high school or something. So which also adds to the level of competition that they're
When
playing.
did you start playing basketball?
I started playing when I was 10.
When you were 10. And so I think the hardest part or one of the hardest things about coaching is dealing with parents and like all that stuff. How do you deal with parents who are upset with the level of playing time that their kid isn't or receiving?
For the most part, I've been lucky enough to have like great parents that I've been around for this travel team. When I used to coach high school, the parents were a problem, but instead of them worrying about, oh, my kid isn't playing enough, it's more of, oh, what is my kid doing during practice? Even though the support thing wasn't ever there. So it's hard, I think, in high school to have the parents support the girls' basketball program at least, just because they didn't believe in it as much. It was probably also a lot to do with location. As far as now, my parents understand, and if there is ever a problem, it's directed straight to the parent, not necessarily to the kid. The kid understands why they're on the bench.
So that gets me on to my next question. So you said mostly the athletes understand why they're not getting, you don't really have too many athletes who come up to you and are upset about their playing time.
Right. For the most part, I have boys who are not strong enough to be on the court at that moment, and they understand that, and what they want is best for the team, not necessarily for them to get the most playing time.
So, wait, you said you coach men or girls too?
I coach boys 10U basketball, so youth basketball for 10-year-olds, and then I used to coach girls basketball, but I don't coach the girls basketball.
So now that you coach men and women, what do you say was easier, and what do you do different between, or if anything, do you do anything different?
Nothing is really different as far as teaching them their fundamentals or teaching them how to play the game, but when you approach a woman or you approach a boy, it's completely different because a girl's going to have more emotion most of the time. So you kind of have to be, if you're a male, if you're a male coach, you have to approach the woman a little lighter than you would, if anything, because they have different times of the month where they're more outraged
than
normal. But me being a woman, it was easy for me to try to, I understand both sides, so I could go all out with them. It wasn't a matter of me having to try to hold back anything.
So what kind of feedback do you find most effective in your line of work, like being positive or negative?
I find critique the most important, with positive reinforcement behind it, of course. So there is a critique that I need to make, and I'm going to make it whether it comes off negative or positive. After that, there's always positive reinforcement.
Let's see here. So as far as your practice plan goes, is that something you just get going at the start of the week, or does that change from game to game, day to day?
So the practice is always pretty similar. We always work on fundamentals for sure every single day, just because that's something that you need throughout the whole game. As far as what we need to work on more, that depends on the game that we played in the last weekend. So this weekend we didn't box out at all. So this week we're going to put a lot more boxing out drills inside of our practice. we missed a lot of layups, so I'm gonna incorporate layup drills with dribbling with our heads.
Okay. Is there any like punishment that goes into
Punishment?
your kind of coaching, or?
Not necessarily. They're growing, so
Uh-huh.
it's a lot more. I wouldn't say there's punishment. In practice, there's punishment. Like if you're not hustling
Yeah,
to
yeah,
where
yeah.
you're supposed to be, there is repercussions for that, as far as like push-ups or suicides or whatever.
Okay.
But there's not really a punishment for a game as long as you're hustling. That's all we really ask for.
Alright. And I would say the hardest thing to me, if I was a coach, would be motivating a team and getting them, to play for you and get behind them. Um, what types of things do you do to motivate a team?
So for motivating, what I've seen that works the best for myself is just being as charismatic as I can be throughout the whole entire game, especially because they're getting tired, so I shouldn't be sitting down on the bench just chilling. It should be more of me into the game with them,
Yeah.
running back and forth with them, trying to tell them where they need to be,
Yeah.
what they need to be doing. If they're doing something wrong, I need to be coaching right then and there. And then if there's something positive, tell them it's positive. If it's something negative, then I need to lay it down,
Yeah.
and then after that, let them understand what's going on with their game.
Would you call yourself a player's coach?
I would, because I was a player, so I
Yeah.
understand what they feel like. So yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Is it a belief of yours that athletes or you kind of coach younger kids that play with more emotion are going to be better players, or is that something that you might call a detriment to somebody?
I would
or-
rather have an emotional player, no doubt, just because they play with more heart than
Yeah.
anything, and passion, which is what I want. That can go both ways though. There's positives and negatives. Positives, okay, you're playing with as much passion as hard as you can, but at the same time, it could reverse, and now you can be too much in your head,
Yeah.
and you can mess up your whole entire game.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What would you say to someone who says that sports doesn't really build character? It's just kind of like a waste of time.
Well, for the most part, we treat our game, as far as under my association, we treat it like a job. So if you don't make it to practice, you don't play, which gives the kids responsibilities at a young age,
Yeah,
which you're
sure.
going to need in real life.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what types of drills do you do with like your team, like whether it be shooting drills or dribbling?
Personally, I believe defense is how you win a game, so we work on defense all the time,
Okay.
switching up our defense from a 1-3-1 to a 2-3 to a man, back to full court press.
Okay.
Just making sure that they understand where their positions are and who's on the court at that time, so that they get a feel for their teammates.
Okay. As far as like repetition, like what kind of things, like defensive slides or
Okay, so defensive slides for sure. Boxing out is always important, so those boxing out drills. We also do a lot of dribbling, just because they're young and they need to get their
yeah,
dribbling
absolutely.
better all the time with their eyes up, because a lot of young kids, they tend to dribble with their head down,
Yeah,
and then
so-
they get scared when they get into the
Because if I'm talking about motor skills right now, you're dealing with a lot of kids who are just like learning
how to
dribble
balance,
and how to
how
balance and all that
to
stuff. Because they are growing.
understand the
every day.
proprioception in their bodies, and
I
how
think
the
that's
ball
cool.
in their hands move together,
Cool.
stuff like that.
Cool. Let's see here. So you said you're a strength and conditioning coach at a gym. As far as workout plans, because I know that's going to differ from a basketball workout plan.
Sure.
So what's different?
So as far as a workout plan that I would create for somebody, it depends on what their goals are. If I'm doing it for an athlete, we have phases that we go through in our workout program. So we go through hypertrophy, which is like reps of 10 to 12, just try to build a solid foundation for that person. As soon as they adapt to that, we switch over into strength, having the athlete build up their strength, so that we can get them into the power phase, which is going to be where they create their speed, their vertical, their whatever they need for the sport. If it's health-wise, as far as like you're just trying to lose weight, typically we keep them in hypertrophy and strength, just because we never want them to plateau.
Okay. All right. So when it comes to shooting a basketball, and I know you're teaching a lot of young kids, but a lot of them probably have shot a basketball before. Have you ever taught someone you're literally had to teach them how to shoot a ball?
Yeah.
Where
So
do you start?
we start from the ground up. So from your feet we start, because a lot of kids just don't understand that you have to set your feet first in order to shoot. So set your feet, bend your knees, bend at the hip, and they go all the way down up to the top of your fingertips, which is most cues will give is middle finger in the basket, get up and over the basket.
Okay. And so if you have a lot of people who come in and they're wanting to improve their health, what are some of the questions you ask them? Like, what are their goals? And
First question I ask is, have they ever trained at a gym like this before? Just because the gym that I work at is a lot different than like a 24 or a Planet Fitness, something like that. It's more personal and like custom to you. After that, I ask them if they had any injuries, because I don't want to further any injuries they already have. And if they do have an injury, I want to try to build the surrounding muscles around it so that they can work with their injury, or their injury can go away finally. But as far as that would be the two main questions that I'm going to ask them.
Cool. What are some of the ways you measure progress with your clients?
Okay, so
Like whether body fat or...
none of it is really like body composition. It's about how they feel, how they look in their movements that I'm instructing them to do. So if their form is looking way better, if they're doing it without hurting, the most crucial thing that people will hurt in a strength and conditioning facility, if you're not like being careful, would be your back, because people like to pick things up with their back instead of their legs. So if I can see that you understand where and how to pick up the weight, where to distribute your weight at, then that's when I can see your adaptation and how I can have you add on more weight or whatever. A lot of times the women in my industry will say, oh, like, I'm not losing weight, but then you just have to explain, like, muscle weighs more than fat. How do you feel in your clothes? And once they understand that, then it's like, okay, fine.
And then my two last questions are, what's the hardest part of your job, and what do you enjoy most?
Okay, so I am the morning shift, so I get to wake up at 4 o'clock every single day and be there at 5 o'clock. That's really the hardest part of my job.
It's a long road day.
I'm also a manager at the strength and conditioning gym, so me having to manage the 3 other trainers underneath me is what's mostly difficult, because I am learning how to deal with problems that other people are giving me, and I'm not really making a problem myself, but if my trainers below me are making a problem, I'm still making the problem, and I'm still getting in trouble for it. So I just have to learn how to instruct them better or make them grow as trainers so that we're all on the same page.
And I think that'll do it for me. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, but you had one more question.
Oh, excuse me. What do you enjoy most about your job?
So I enjoy seeing the progress. As far as for like people who are just going there for the health benefit, I enjoy seeing them lose their weight. I enjoy seeing them get healthier. As far as the athletes, it's fun to go to their games or their matches or their fights or whatever and see how all of what we did inside the gym transferred into their sport.
Cool. So, thank you, Jacqueline.
You are welcome.